Portions of the program may be unsuitable for younger or more sensitive viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
You're a Negro.
No.
I am your teacher. You are a Negro.
No.
Suppose I threatened to beat you. What would you say? Aren't you a Negro now?
No.
What are you?
I'm black and beautiful.
What is your nationality?
My nationality is Afro-American.
Suppose I had some money in my pocket. Suppose I gave you $1 to say that you're an American Negro. This is money now. Money talks. Money talks. This dollar. And if you don't say it, you don't get it. You're an American Negro, aren't you?
No.
You won't have any money. You know you need money, don't you?
Yes.
You need money to live, don't you?
Yes.
All right. All you have to say, Leon, is that you're an American Negro.
Hey, how's y'all doing, everybody? Again, this is your host, and welcome to the most hated show in the black corner of YouTube. This is Black Minds News Live Report. I want to say what's good to y'all on this Friday evening. To my subscribers, what's good, fam? Glad y'all could stop by if you happen to catch this live, if not on the replay. What's good to you and yours. I hope everything is going well. Passerbys, if you happen to pass by, this is the most hated show on the black corner of the internet. Go down the aisle, happen to see something to make you feel some kind of way. Remember, the motto of my show is the truth. Don't need no partner. So, coming to do a show today, seen some things that I thought was of some interest that might be for some of us, and those who are new, welcome again. For those who are newly subscribers, and you know they're hiding you. So if you should want to let me know, send me a little thing, say, hey man, I subscribe, let me keep a note on that, And also we have another channel, Black Minds News, Black Minds TV. Go over there, help me to get that one up to, the subscriber account. That'll help me to do some things. If that's what you want to do, go ahead and do that as well. So what are we going to talk about today, Mr. Blows Your Mind? I see you got the alerts that went out. For those who are getting them, they say they getting to people, but we shall find out, right? So today's show, as you've seen on the thumbnail, is, go there first, right? Go ahead, show the thumbnail there, right? So we see today's date being March 5th, 2021, teaching standardized public fooling. Let me say that again. Teaching standardized public fooling. Well, what is that about? Well, all of us in some form, fashion, whether you're in it now or have been it, what is public fooling? What is the standardized public fooling? Well, that is the system that taught us what they said was education, right? And some of us, due to our parenting, and those who come out with maybe silver spoon or just come from a different class of people, or they say in this country a status, maybe we didn't go through the rigmarole of a public school system that some of us had to drip through, or outdated information. To come to find out, sometimes when you go to one, let's say, system of academia, you found out that how lacking that your education was. Now, does that mean that the individual is not a person with some kind of intelligence, or just that you've been hindered due to historically how this country has considered to take certain segments of society who they consider to be the dredge of those people who lawfully have been oppressed and have not found a way to get out, that they have been deemed to be really the cash cow in so many sense, that the system that they gave to educate them was never gonna be really sufficient. Now sometimes some people are just more talented, than others, where others may struggle. But in this case, we're gonna look at some of the things that have been said recently, right? And see what I'm talking about with this teaching standardized public fooling, right? So that's where we're gonna go today, right? We're gonna go in there and see them teachers. You see matter of fact, go back in there right quick, right? So you see on the thumbnail, right? You see the children in the classroom, got a teacher over the desk, a little sister there, right? And there's a brother over there. We're gonna find out some things that he talked about. You go in there, but you see the classroom with the kids in there, right? We all have been there, right? Some of us, again, have not been in these situations that I might be talking about, but we're going to find out if this is across the bubble in this country. But before I get into that, let's see. Go over there. We got to do this, right? Because you know how they say. Now, again, Booker T. Washington, being of Black American descent, they said that he was quoted saying in 1911, "There's a class of colored people who make a business of keeping the troubles, the wrongs, and the hardship of the Negro race before the public, having learned that they are able to make a living out of their troubles. They have grown into the settled habit of advertising their wrongs, partly because they want sympathy and partly because it pays. Some of these people do not want the Negro to lose his grievances because they do not want to lose their jobs." Now, you know how it is, right? Those in the black corner of us who get black media, black news, and we try to keep abreast our people on certain aspects. Now, again, you may not be Black American in this sense, but it pertains to everybody, but everybody has their own, it has different effects when certain things happen. Now, we who've been in this country from the knee-high to a grasshopper, so we are affected a little bit different than others. So, but this here will give some little insight to some of the things that many of us have gone through and see some of the nefarious machinations inside of it that hinder so many of us, or have hindered so many of us. So, we ready to go over there? There we go. We can go over there. All right, I think we can go over there. Because I had seen this in the paper here, right? I seen this here. It says, "Squad member Rep. BOWMAN claims standardized testing is racist." Let me say that again. Squad member Rep. BOWMAN claims standardized testing is racist. Right? I guess he's just getting into the political game, and matter of fact, let me tell you a little bit about this brother here. He coming in and he already ruffling some feathers. You start talking like that coming in the door, he already looking at you kind of crazy. So again, his name is JAAMAL BOWMAN, right? Consider him as an American politician and educator. He's serving in the U.S. representative for New York in the 16th Congressional District since 2001, as I guess of this year, right? His district covered much of the North Bronx. Now, he is a founder and former principal of the Cornerstone Academy for Social Action Public Middle School in East Chester, Bronx. He defeated a 16-term incumbent, Elliot Engel, in 2020 in the 2020 Democratic primary, right? How he got into teaching, according to what I had did some research, it said that after he had graduated on his undergraduate, got his degree, he had pursued a career in sports management. So he ended up having a family friend who worked for the New York City Department of Education, and I guess somewhere in that, he kind of leans, say, "Hey man, sports is good, but you need to kind of get up in here. You got the acumen for this, and you have what it takes." And so he began working as an educator. His first job, it said, he was a crisis manager teacher, becoming a leading advocate against standardized testing. This is what he came in the game knowing this about, right? So he has written about high-stake testing roles and the perpetual inequalities, right? How the turnovers and the vicious cycle it creates in the lives of students and educators, assessment performance damage at school abilities to teach, qualities of education upon which the student is assessed, restorative justice model to address the school to pipeline prison or prison to pipeline, and 10 years as a principal. He left the job and then he decided to get into the congressional campaign, right? So that's this brother right here that you see on your screen there. Again, his name is JAAMAL BOWMAN. Now, you know, Jamal, right? Now, some of you might have known. Remember back, the way he spelled Jamal is Jamaal, right? That reminds me, remember back at those who remember back in the day, his cornbread. They killed cornbread. Remember cornbread? Cornbread Earl and me. If you ever see that movie, you'll see Lawrence Fishburne as a little kid. That was Jamal Wilson, used to play for the Lakers, I think, right? And that movie was based on that. So I see the way that they spelled his name and him being born, when was he born? He born like in the, what was he born? Looks like he was born in, when was he born, sir? Oh, yeah, go back and look, see what year was he born? Because the way he spelled his name, I think that's more akin to that particular time. Yeah, 76. So yeah, he probably was born. He might have been named similar to Jamal Wilkes. Jamal Wilkes had a little game, you know, kind of looked like Reggie a little. You know, well, I guess maybe Reggie looked like him. But anyway, that I just thought. Cause then I know that's a Black American name, Jamal, right? So anyway. Let me tell you about what it said about it in this article, though, as we get into the crux of this particular show today. Again, he's a freshman representative, JAAMAL BOWMAN. He's a Democrat from New York, and his I guess you say the base of him is attacking standardized testing as racist, right? Being a new member in the progressive squad, the standardized testing that he said is the pillar of systematic racism. What he did is he took a link that was tied to the National Education Association, and it said racist beginnings of standardized testing. The NEE or NEA is the nation's largest teacher union. And so the NEA website lists that it started back in 1838. Now, where was we as Black Americans in 1838 in this country? Now, again, disclaimers that this is a Black Minds news show, but anybody can be participant or hearers or doers. But again, I stress a little bit towards minds because we lack there of having people who give the news in the way we need it given, right? So anyway, but in 1838, we in this country, then they talking about 1865 and so forth, and 1862. So you know pretty much where we were in this country at this time when this became, I guess you said, when they start the beginning of the standardized testing in America. And so he was saying that he claims in the first paragraph that the day's leading social scientists, right? Social scientists. And then he says that many of them who are the constructors and designers are white Anglo-Saxon Protestants. And so he's saying based on who they are at this particular time and from that point till we are now, the infiltration of non-whites into the nation's public school system was always a concern by them, right? But they, you know, standardized testing is not uniquely an American thing, right? They'll tell you that China holds the oldest recorded use of standardized testing. I guess they mean by in the world, right? But there was a reporter, he had pointed out, again, to take some, you know how some people are, when you start bringing a certain truth about some things that you are, let's say we're revealing, we're looking up under the cover, we're starting to look up on, looking up under the skirt, but ladies, I know we're not trying to look up under the skirt, but that's just euphemism. Looking up under the skirt to see what's up there, or look under the hood of the vehicle to to see what's up under there, right? And so, when we start doing that and revealing stuff, people become a little defensive and sensitive in what they end up saying. So this guy came and said, well, standardized testing was developed by the Chinese millenniums ago. They don't want to take full responsibility. He said, well, we got it from somebody else. Now, you're going to have a problem with it. We just copy what they did. Okay, but that's in China. When you all Chinese, that's different. But when somehow, again, as this shows, I have said prior going back, you become a so-called melting pot of foreigners. Don't know how that goes, but again, that's what we are, and that's what we are today. So, as that being said, was that the mindset originally when they was creating this? The way we see today in 2021, was that the architects, the formers, the developers, did they see today? Because, a lot of people say, oh, well, our forefathers, they could foresee way into the future in the Constitution, but did they see what we are today, right? But they do know that there was some people who they had that they never could see that were, in some sense, right, where we are today. Did they ever think that they will ever get in the, without the chain, right? You don't see the chain still exists. And that's what we're going to get into today. The chain still exists. When they had it, there was a chain. The chain been released. Let's like say, for instance, analogy would be, you ever seen a dog that is in the backyard that got a chain? Originally, when he first put him on there, he's choking himself in, moving. He don't know the parameters, the radius of the chain. And by osmosis, he learns that, right, that the parameters that he can only go. So what happens when you originally take that chain off him? He still is programmed not to go beyond the parameters or the diameters of his chain length, right? So that's what happens when you take the chain off and have the invisible chains, right? And so he says, well, standardized testing is actually horrible for a number of reasons, but it isn't the only one. It's not one that's just that, right? But they say the leftist obsession with racializing everything means that even when they're wrong, it's something like this, and criticizing bad stuff, right? I mean, you're picking on something that doesn't exist. There's no real racialness in standardized testing, right? There's nothing in that. You guys are always looking for something that's not there. Well, the country was built on a certain way. What else are we supposed to look at? We only can go on what it has been. Now, where we are today versus some people like to think that the past has nothing to do with the present. How you formulate it, ask yourself honestly, what made everything that you think don't exist today went away? Let me ask you that again. Ask yourself, even those who were just born maybe 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, 60 years ago. You understand what I'm saying? Certain people like to say that things of the past do not exist today, but ask yourself honestly, what made it go away? Right? It's like somebody knows something's wrong with their body and do nothing about it and just make their mind say, well, I don't feel anything anymore, so I guess it must be okay. That don't mean that it's still not going through its process ravaging you just because you ignore it. And what did you do to heal it other than say that we're not anymore? That's, saying we're not like anymore. That was done back then. Okay, well, let's see. So we see that this freshman congressman, he was slamming President Biden's refusal to grant waivers for standardized testing during the COVID-19 pandemic as wrong, right? He said, wait a minute. Hold on. Let's get it from his own words. Huh? How we do that? Can we do that? We do that, right? Let's go ahead and let's give him his words, and we'll be right back. Check this out, y'all.
Peace and love, everyone. Hope everyone is doing well. So yesterday, the Biden administration and the U.S. Department of Education submitted guidance to states across the country, pretty much mandating that they implement standardized tests this year during a pandemic, a global pandemic. This is the worst pandemic that we've had in 100 years. Over 500,000 people are dead. 26 million have been infected with the coronavirus. And the thing that we're focusing on the most in our public schools is implementing a standardized test. And the excuse is we need to administer the tests so that we can know where the gaps are and so we can know where kids are struggling. Newsflash, we've been implementing standardized tests for the last 20 years. We know where the gaps are, we know where kids are struggling, and we're still not bringing the resources to bear in those communities. Newsflash, communities that have been redlined are the communities that are struggling on standardized tests. That's been a historical point of fact. We do not need to implement a standardized test in the middle of a pandemic to know where the struggles are. We already know where the struggles are because the federal government was a part of redlining these communities about 80, 90 years ago. So we're not taking into consideration the trauma that our kids have gone through this year. 500,000 dead. How many kids have lost their parents? How many have lost their grandparents and great-grandparents? How many kids have had interrupted instruction this year because of the consistent opening and closing of schools? How many kids have not been able to access remote learning because they don't have Wi-Fi or they don't have the hardware? How many teachers in school districts have struggled to transition to remote learning in terms of curriculum, instruction, and assessment? But we think it's wise and smart to administer a standardized test in the middle of a pandemic.
All right, so that was JAAMAL BOWMAN, right, giving you his 2 cents as to how he's evaluating and saying that he believes that why, if children are going back to school after dealing with, we're already on a year, right? Actually, I think next week will be 1 year specifically when the country was I think it was executive order or was announced that we would go through this pandemic. Well, I think it was like March 15th or something like that, right? Or 13th. I think it was March 13th. So anyway, so here we are just about going on 1 year anniversary of dealing with this. And you have Texas opening up, Minnesota opening back up. You know, you got people opening back up. And then he said, well, wait a minute. Why are we so focused on these standardized tests when many of these children, especially when we're talking about those who come out of, you know, low income, poverty ridden, you know, those particular areas, and the tragedy, especially with this country, has always said that Black Americans have gone through this pandemic worse than probably everybody else, according to what their report said. Now, again, do we know all the numbers statistically and have everybody been honest with it? We don't know, but again, what they report, right? So you have to ask yourself, yeah, why would the first thing when they get back in, the first thing you want to do is you want to test them, right? You want to get in there and see what's going on there, right? So let's look at this word, standardize, right? So when you say standardize, you're saying make uniform. What are we going to make uniform to, right? Regulate, systematize, normalize, cut to size, cut from the cloth. Whose cloth are we cutting to make sure that you are still in sync, right? So, right, what is the purpose to administer standardized tests since the pandemic? That's a question. What is the purpose, right? Is it to evaluate the progress of its implementations of it, right? To see, right? Right? See, so when you think about a school, what is a school? A school, right, is to implement, to instruct, to a utensil. It's an apparatus, it's a device, it's an invention, right? It's a vehicle, right? Can also be an agency, the means, an agent, a middleman, a go-between, right? The belief, the creed, the dogma, the doctrine, the thought, the view, the opinion, right? The sect can be the train, the coach, the break-in, prepared, ready, break-in, or bring up, right? And direct, guide, mold, shape, and form, right? So that's, schools is pretty much like a tool, right? To evaluate, assessing things, right? So here it is, you got children who coming out of families, as you heard JAAMAL BOWMAN say, you got tragedy and trauma. People done lost family members, friends, the hardship that is going through. And the first thing we want to do is get you back in here and let's start testing you. So here it is. It's this test. Is it somewhere to, let's see how severed or detached you are from our programming, right? Maybe we need to say, you've been home a little bit. You got things like the Black Corner of YouTube and other shows who are out here who are doing their due diligence and bringing information that may be, maybe not for everybody, but maybe in the interest of this particular group and others who are willing to hear. So we want to evaluate and see where you at. Because, that Black Corner has caused a ripple in the sense of the nation because it was in the corner that the reparation talk and a lot of things came up out of that corner. And then, the revamping of how social media had went down and clamped up on everything. So we got to see where these children mind it. You've been home. We don't know who you've been talking to, and we need to do this, right? So regardless of the tragedy and compound with all that, that's gone on, maybe they want to test to see, have they broken? Are you broke? Have you hit your breaking point, right? As he talked about specifically when you talk about the gaps and the struggles. Well, the system has always known about these areas because these are the designated areas that have been created, right? You created these areas of this specific group that's going to come from specific people who are going to struggle a specific way unless some are gifted and, find ways to get, they say, a rose growing out of the concrete, right? So you can also say that the standardized testing is much more like somebody, how you watch some of these scary movies, monster movies, right? And they have a mug back then, they torturing the hell out of them, right? And the mug is torturing them, right? And then let them sit for a while and come back. Let them see that either you're going to be, still breathing, either you get to the breaking point or whatever they want, or you just going to to your demise. Right? That's what we have to look at, man. So goes on, he was talking about if you have never been an educator, you should be leading. People shouldn't be leading on the matters of education in our country. So all the data that they claim they need to standardize, test, and analyze can be better understood by speaking with educators in our classroom. So in 2017, the New York State Board region voted to drop the literary test for prospect teachers. A large percentage of Black and Hispanic candidates were failing the test. So the decision to remove the test was met with mixed reviews. Well, that's because why? Some people can't see that there is bias in tests. Now, isn't tests, think about it, right? Let's say like a place like in Oregon, like the Oregon Department of Education, they say they challenged the standardized testing program because they say it is designed to promote ethnomathematics. Now, what do you mean ethnomathematics? What is that in the classroom, right? Ethnomathematics, what is that? So they also claim that white supremacy culture allegedly infiltrates math classes. That's what they said. They said that white supremacy culture allegedly infiltrates math classrooms in different forms. The focus, getting the right answer, requires students to show their work. Yeah, back in the day when we used to be in school, right? You had to get up there and do the math, and then sometimes people could get the answer of a math equation and worked it a whole another different way. And sometimes I remember having some teachers that would say, that wasn't right. That's not the way you do it. But they got the same right answer, right? So it's like, again, You have to be according to the way we want you to be, right? So I had seen some people, right? Because again, some people will say, okay, what's the big issue here? What's really the issue? It's just a test. Why are you guys acting like, there's something wrong? Well, let's just ask the question of this. If somebody, by giving a test, right, and that if you're going to get your score based on the answer, what's racial about that, right? You guys are looking, there isn't bias in that. Well, what about the way it's been designed? What about the questions? What about the building? Right? They think if you put everybody, the student, in the same building, given a test that we all taking, we all get the same answer, that everybody's going to be able to do the same test as if in the construction, right? Those who constructed it didn't have an idea. Remember, this go back to 1838. Can our test is biased? People know this already, right? But again, after all this trauma and stuff that things have gone, why are you so anxious to try to figure out what's going on in the heads of these kids when everybody dealing with it? What's really about that all about? Okay? I've seen some people who talked about it, and they were saying things like, some stuff I've seen, some of the people who were commenting on this, they were saying, well, many test experts and educators consider them to be fair and objective methods of assessing academic achievement of students, mainly because the standardized format coupled with computerized scoring reduces the potential for favoritism, bias, and subjective evaluation. Right? Now, let's break that down, right? You're talking about test experts. Now, people always do that, right? Let's say, for instance, the Black Corner can be talking about something specifically from a perspective of how we see it, and maybe we're reading the nonsense in between the lines. But to discredit us, you go get somebody and say who stamped approve and say expert. And so the expert is the one who is accredited and stamped approve, which means what he says means that it can be he's not wrong. Right? As people, even though they can have badge, shield, degrees, still don't lie. Right? So this person try to use test experts and educators. Well, to be educated, don't you still come out of the institutionalized system? Is this your own learning? It's like, what they say, Abe Lincoln and self-taught and made. Can you actually go anywhere and be self-educated and they're going to really recognize you? Look at how many of those of us on YouTube. Some have some education. Some have a little bit of education. Some have did a lot of learning on their own. Research, things that the school would never touch. But that don't mean they don't know what they're talking about. But they will never be stamped approved because it's not fitting according to what our standardized programming is, right? So to say fair, right? Telling us fair, really? Fair? Black Americans, we've promises, right? We've been told a lot of stuff that was supposed to make us fair in the game, but, reneging on what you promised. So fair is not one thing that we kind of, we look at, they're going to be right by us, right? Objective methods. Objective. Really? The objective method in this case would be, who made this test? What is their reasoning for it? You may say it was just all about just trying to get the aptitude and acumen of an individual, but you have a motive why you do what you do, but that don't mean you're going to ever relay it to us, right? And so, computerized scoring. Well, guess what? It's not like it's going to be a teacher who's going to score and based on the fact that he or her emotion feel some way toward you that she would be biased to it. It's going to be computerized. Wait a minute. You mean to tell me as a person, me, Black Minds News, been in this game for 9 years, and I got 2.8, then it took about 80 subscribers. I got 2.8 1,000 subscribers and I can't even barely get 100 views, and you tell me that the computer is not somehow biased in this algorithm to make sure that I stay hidden in a damn corner? So you think that computer scoring make it seem to be fair and unbiased? Who created the computer system that is operating under? So you got to get to the crux if we want to understand where racism lies at. There's no favoritism when you use that. Bias, subjective evaluation, please, right? See, that's people who don't want to. There's some people coming to the realization that some of the things that they've been taught have not been on the up and up. And I'm talking about people on the other side of the spectrum. There's some of them who are really coming to the realization, but then they're still trying to say, well, we're not going to deal with yours. We're going to say, well, we all have to get together because it's not us, it's them. No, wait. We've been going through this longer than y'all. If you're going to be honest about some things, deal with who was going through it first, and then we've been patient long enough. You think if we've been going without, we ain't got time to be like, if there's something left, after the divvying up, right? After everything get divvied up, if there's something left, well, you can get yours. But don't you think other people in line priority before you? So that's for those who are just coming to the Johnny come lately that everything they've been told ain't been the truth, right? And so another person was in here saying that, so it sounds like his complaint, he talking about JAAMAL BOWMAN, his complaint is that the 13% should be given a different thing. Now, when he say 13%, who he talking about, y'all? Black Americans, right? 13%. Everybody know 12, 13, that's us, right? Like the 12 tribes or the 13 tribes. So really it's 13 tribes, right? Because they don't count the Ladina or something like that. But anyway, so say the 13% should be given a different test, everyone else, and make it easier for them to pass. Really? See, that's a person, again, in your evaluation, you don't look at the fact that history and the people who've been through that somehow, I ask you this question, can you be honestly ask yourself, everything that you say that don't exist today, what made it go away from the beginning to where we are now? Show me where it went away. Don't tell me about, emancipation. That's just an announcement. That's, again, paper. We're talking about those who make the paper become valid, has power, right? Them people, you, us, we, right? Can you say that? Show me where. Show me. You can't. It sounds good. You might want to mean well, but in actuality, no. Otherwise, why are we still out here, as Booker T would say, we doing it because we just want to get a payday. We just want some sympathy. We are just looking for a payday. We just like talking about this because we just want to be crazy with it and talk like, no, there's something that exists. But people don't want to acknowledge that, right? So another person said they're just another form of affirmative action. See, they love throwing that in there, right? You didn't even show that, did you? You show that little, well, never mind. We don't have to. But anyway, he said just another form of affirmative action. Why is it that everybody think that black folks primarily were the beneficiaries of affirmative action? Right? I mean, you have other people using other apparatuses, and I say apparatuses in a way because I'm talking about using my gender, using my sexual preference. There are a lot of people getting in, and then there's other people who had no real, let's say, in history, their contribution has not been greater than. Now, those who were fighting and putting in to get that to be talked about in the beginning, but then it somehow undermined it, and everybody else was benefiting from it. So they love to say, oh, we get that affirmative action. They keep talking about how supposed we out here after Chinese, right? Even they got to the point that they was like, affirmative action no good, but yet they would benefit from it, but because you couldn't get all your people in, now all of a sudden that affirmative action is prohibiting you from you getting chosen because you have a quota. See? Greed. It's because you're trying to say, well, them other people are not deserving. We should be in Harvard because we can pass the test. Well, you don't come out of the same conditions we do. Right? You don't come out of the background we got. You don't have the same obstacle, but yet it seems like everybody trying to take these situations and blow them up. As I told y'all before, we are the giant that they want to chop down, and says, since we always say, they say we want to play the race card, but they want to say, well, you guys are just as racist. Look what you're doing to us. Really? 2020 to 2021, what is equivalent to our entirety of our history? And then get on damn news and having this big, black people need to stop and talk. Wait a minute, man. What about when all the shit been going on? Where the hell y'all been at all this damn time? Yeah, we patronized you and made you all the money you're making. But you know how that is, man. Always hating. So anyway, he goes on talking about equality and our diversity. I mean equality and diversity. There ain't no equal. If that you could throw that word away if it was happening. It's always in work. People are always working towards trying to get that. But you talk about equality and diversity. Well, let's see. Same thing you say, standardized tests is not biased. Let's look at diversity when it comes to people coming here. Everybody that come here is kind of vetted. Nobody just come here that you just bring that somehow, like when originally did it back in the 60s, you were vetting and making sure that certain people from Europe that didn't come from those, with them southern and I think it was the southern parts, right? And certain parts of Southern Asia as well, right? So you was only getting a certain type of people, German type people, Anglos, right? And then you start bringing people in. And the minute you start bringing other people from other places, then it was all communist talk. Right? Oh, they do communists, and they hang with the communists and the Russians and all that other shit. Wait a minute. Somebody got the boogeyman chasing it, because everybody seems like somebody's going to get with, side by side and work with the black people, then there's going to be something wrong in that. And that's just how it is. We know. But there ain't no diversity. Now when you're saying now that other people who at one time used to deem them, let's say, they were not white, right? But somehow, if you'd have kept them in that category, they would have eventually started unifying and getting with the blacks. So we're going to make you white so you stay along with us. So you made only us to be black. You even got, again, as I go more into this show, you're going to find out that most of our people, in the way that this standardized testing in this school system has programmed our people, that's why so many people, they ain't black any damn more. I'm going to show you, right? So he says that never benefited the United States and it never will. Equality and diversity has never benefited. Listen to what he's saying. Equality and diversity has never benefited the United States. So anyway, so inequality and non-diversity works well? These mugs is crazy, right? Then this last person I'm going to talk about said they do now have their own national anthem. We have our own national anthem. Well, we got an anthem. We need a country. Maybe the problem is, somebody squatting in our shit. Right? Maybe somebody sitting there squatting in our shit. And we got a national anthem, because if you got a national anthem, it means you got a country. Right? Where the country at? Or it's being entrusted by some other people who running it for you to keep you incapacitated so that they can have it. Okay. Anyway, so that brother sitting there, he wanted to bring about this standardized test. And I said, okay. You're right about that. Again, like a lot of us went to school, we had to take these tests so they can get some funding and so forth. And what is the real evaluation for that for? Especially, as he was saying, look at the stuff they're going through right now. Right? So anyway, take a break and be right back. Check out.
Good evening. There's no harder lesson than the one taught today to 8 Atlanta educators by an angry judge after they were convicted on charges typically reserved for mobsters. He threw the book at them, teachers, principals among them, handing down lengthy prison sentences for their roles in a massive cheating scandal in which standardized test scores at underperforming schools were inflated. The judge told them the conspiracy harmed thousands of children. Our chief education correspondent, Rahema Ellis, shows us how it all played out.
This thing was pervasive. It's like the sickest thing that's ever happened to this town.
In a tense courtroom, Judge Jerry Baxter imposed harsh sentences on 8 former Atlanta public school educators convicted of racketeering, conspiring to fix standardized test scores to improve results.
There were thousands of children that were harmed in this thing. This is not a victimless crime.
3 disgraced educators, former teachers and administrators, were sentenced to 20 years, serving 7 in prison, the rest on probation. The others, including a principal and elementary school teachers, were sentenced to 5 years, serving 1 to 2 of them behind bars. Emotions ran high.
How can you say that?
As the sentences came down.
You sit down, I'm going to put you in jail. If you yell at me, point at me.
It was painful for everyone, including the judge.
I consider you a wonderful educator, and that's what makes it so sad. You were under so much pressure.
Yesterday, the judge heard from dozens of character witnesses pleading for leniency.
Have mercy on my daughter, please.
I'm giving you some opportunity.
And so Judge Baxter asked both sides to agree on a fair sentence that included admitting guilt. Otherwise, he would determine a punishment.
I've got the fair sentence in my mind, and it involves going to jail.
All rise.
Back in court today, only 2 decided to take the plea, which included home confinement or weekends behind bars. The judge admonished the rest.
All I want from any of these people is just to take some responsibility, but they refuse. And
Today's sentencing also included community service and thousands of dollars in fines. While some criticized its severity, others said this cheating scandal shortchanged some of the city's most vulnerable children who are now years behind in their education. Lester?
Quite a
All right, so that was 8 Atlanta educators. Well, originally I think it was 13, right? I think 1 died, 2 got I'll go more to it, right? So anyway, that was about the Atlanta educators who were sent to prison for a school cheating scandal, right? Now, I don't know if y'all heard about that, right? Now, again, remember, originally I was just sitting there talking about the United States rep from New York, JAAMAL BOWMAN, and how he is saying about the standardized tests. But there was a scandal going back, I think it was in 2015 when that originally happened. And as you see, those who were in there were Black Americans, right? And they're doing what they were doing, right? And so what they were doing is they was boosting student test scores, right? Right? What they call a school cheating scandal that sparked an emotion debate over race, right? And these were nothing but elementary school teachers, right? And the way they were doing it, they had them to go to prison under racketeering laws, which, you know, they're made for like mobsters, right? So it was 3 top administrators. They were sentenced to 7 years in prison with 13-year probation. And the other 5 of them, right, they were like considered lower ranking educators. They gave them 1 to 2 because I guess they were, you know, trying to find a way to make a plea deal out of this, right? Now, again, this happened in Fulton County Superior Court, and as you've seen in that clip there, that was the judge. His name was Jerry W. Baxter, right? And they was talking about they were refusing to take lenient plea agreements, right? And you can see how that was kind of taking place in there, and to see how the judge was saying. So everybody's saying, well, they were so harsh that the prosecutors had qualms with the way the judge was like, but you kept hearing them say they need to take responsibility, right? Okay. So originally, as they said, they started out, the goal was just to, I guess they weren't going to put the educators in jail. They just wanted them to admit what they had done, right? So they kept saying, well, we offer them chances. All they had to do was admit their guilt, apologize, and then they want them also to waive their rights to appeal, okay? Now, the 11 educators convicted in this case, again, all were Black Americans, teachers, right? coming out of low-income schools, right? 2, again, they took the deal, right? 8 of them stood fast because they said they was insisting on their innocence and the right to appeal, okay? And so you had people who were thinking this wasn't justice. None of these teachers have ever been charged with anything in their life, and that this is what is going to come down to their life is to put them in jail. They consider this to be the most cheating scandal in the nation's history. You know, every time when we get into something, man, it's always going to be number one, right? We do something. Again, old school standards to say, you can't do what white folks do. You can't do what white folks do, right? But anyway, I'm going to give you some more of the background of this, right? And so they were saying that it raises the questions about high-stake testing in public schools, right? Now, they said there's alleged targeting of black teachers and the impact on the children when school administrators go to extreme lengths to raise testing scores. Remember something I was hearing over some time between then and now? Where teachers had to, their jobs were depending on how the test scores were going with this, and so forth. So, you're creating an environment, right? Again, we're talking about the histories of we as Black Americans in this country being in red line situations. You heard JAAMAL BOWMAN talking about, well, the gaps and the difference is because it was federally mandated or made legislatively by federal, that you already know that the disparity in where you created and the problems. So then now you're going to, the inadequateness of these public schools that you're putting these children in, and then you somehow miraculously, they're supposed to be equivalent because you're putting teachers that, again, the environment that they're coming out of and then trying to teach them, where some of them are coming out of homes with not good structure and all kind of other things, right? There's a lot of things going on because we're talking about survival as well. Plus, what history has, where's the responsibility in that part, right? Where's that part at? Nobody want to talk about that, but anyway. So, again, these were elementary school teachers sent to prison under laws originally intended for gangsters. They claimed that there was parents who complained that teachers was receiving bonuses for inflated test scores. Now, again, think about that. That sounds innocent, right? That you do a well job, we're going to give you a bonus for doing a good job. But if you're underpaying me, right? Let's say, for instance, like police officers, right? Let's say it's a merited job. It's a job that based on convictions, arrests, and tickets. So somebody who's want to move up, who's very ambitious, right? Or to just say to get overtime, to get more money, sometimes you do things to create. Now, I'm not condoning that at all. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying it breeds for certain people who have that in them, that they see that, they go, maybe I could do that. Now, in the case here as educators, those who students, they will be impacted by that because why? They didn't learn. It's kind of like you just pushing somebody through. I remember back in the day, what was his name? Dexter Manley. I know that's going back, ain't it? Dexter Manley, he was like the first cat that I remember coming up that couldn't read. It was an NFL football, but he couldn't read. And everybody like, damn, how did he get out of high school? How did he get out of grade school, high school, went to college, NFL pro, but he can't read because they were just pushing him along, right? Just pushed him along, right? 30, 40 kids in the class with one teacher. And then again, we talking about now that you done had second generation of people who've been through the crack epidemic and these children and so forth. And then, people coming out of, abuse and all kinds of stuff, right? You got to take your hat off to a lot of these teachers that be up in the classrooms, right? They're dealing with a whole lot. I mean, you seen some of these teachers so crazy out here. I'm not saying black teachers, but I read the other day a story where a white woman went to jail because she got hot in class. I don't know, got hot in class in front of her kids and busted right there. Anyway, moving on, right? But you understand what I mean, right? And so, the incentives, you're trying to incentivize the teachers to go ahead and do something right, but then again, it can create, because they already assess and they already know that, man, this ain't gonna work, but then you tying this into my employment. I have to show my worth. And so what happens is you create this. This doesn't condone it though, right? And so many struggle to read and write. They lost their chance of funding, federal funding for remedial education, because they said the high test scores made it look like they didn't need no help. Ain't that something? See, look how they done put these measures in there to evaluate whether you can get the funding or not. Wait a minute, they're coming out of dilapidated, right? Low tax, if any tax. Would it make any difference if the children of the area were performing well? Shouldn't they still be allocated money? You look at the area they're coming out of. No, they incentivize it, right? So you put a lot of pressure on them teachers. Now, they had a story they talked about where one of the mothers of the child, she said that based on all that she had been in the school, that by the time she got in 7th grade, she had flunked twice, right? Because why? She was doing good, but for some odd reason, her homework wasn't reflecting that she was doing good. Her homework, well, they say teaching begins at home, right? You, as the parent, the first one that should supposed to be inculcating any kind of knowledge to what you produce is you get in there and you shape and mold so that when they go in there, they already got some kind of foundation coming in. Now, I know we talk about kindergarten in the way that, time has made it where a lot of single parents got to work and then got the time and coming, they tired and so forth. So really, when you look at this whole design, right, this whole design of everything, it's just a mellow cocktail. Remember, I read those who were avid watchers over here, we talked about the Nixon in 1970 when they talk about the letter and talk about the progress that Black Americans was making, and then the alarmness of we were going to school more than whites, we were doing better, marriage-wise. And 10 years later, crack hit us, right? So somebody want to, stop that. And then we're hearing places like Chicago and so forth talking about, the worst school systems in America. Like, how's that possible? You had the worst school system in America, right? But there's no funding, right? People are reallocating their taxes that they own the homes and the places where Black people live, but then they take the taxes out and taking them, put it where they is, and so their schools will get more, better equipment, better books, paying the teachers better. Because see, a lot of times a teacher that teaches in the public school system can't teach in the suburbs, right? You're not qualified enough, right? And those that got those home districts, them teachers get paid well. You don't never see them on strike. It's only on the public school system you see them out there. They have to, do the things they got to do. So as this sister here was saying that if they had did what they were supposed to do, maybe things wouldn't have been like they are now. Again, two wrongs don't make it right. But again, did they do this on their own? Right? So they say they think there were hundreds of thousands of kids who were lost in the schools. But the effect is going to be the community. Because see, just like the other day when I did the story about, what I called that the other day, I think it was not validation, but it was about the immigration, about the truck and with the 25 and the SUV. And then we come to find out that, there's those little camps in the Braceros, and, everybody flooding themselves in here because these agreements that are being made to come in here to be, laborers. Now, they say that doesn't affect the people who are already here. But if you're breeding a generation of people who are falling to the wayside that can't advance, and they have to compete with them, they're going to be SOL, which is shit out of luck, right? They're going to be SOL. They're going to be shit out of luck. And then what is that going to breed? Now that's going to help you to do what? This pipeline back into them prisons because they ain't got no other way to survive, right? So if people want to say there's no biasness in evaluating the tests and the curriculum, I got some other stuff I'm going to show you right after this, right? And so, even when you look at this case, it was talking about how they weren't even going to give the grant the first time offender status to all convicted educators, right? They was not going to allow them to be. A lot of them didn't have no background, but the magnitude of this, I understand. Don't get me wrong. Don't think that I'm not saying if you was in there and what you were doing was going to deter and hurt children, that's going to be irreparable. There's some accountability you need, but I'm saying, did they initiate that, or was that a trickle-down effect, right? And so the judge, he kept just saying all he wants from these people is just to take some responsibility. They refuse. Everybody like to see black folks to take responsibility, right? We said that somewhere down the line, somebody threw that in our lexicon. I remember when we saw it, we got to take responsibility. We got to take responsibility. Yeah, but what about the shit that happened before us, before we take our responsibility? Ain't nobody never, that's just, wait a minute. We got to charge that to the game, right? All right. You know how that is with us, right? You know how they say. Hold on. Go throw it up there. Get a charge to the game. You know, this is how they do with us, right? Give it to them. Right? Charge it to the game. Make a squeal for it, right? That's what they're going to do. Ain't no responsibility. It was lawful. It was legal what happened to you, right? You just squeal yourself out of it. Don't worry about it. Just move on. So, you know, it's kind of crazy when they think about that, right? So, now that's some sisters and brothers who decided. Now, I'm not sure they inflated because there was the money. Was they inflated for their jobs? Did they do it so they would help other students? You know, a lot of different things to look at that. But let me show you something recently, things that done took place. See, black people go to jail when you don't do right by ours, right? You'll go to jail. But let's say that, let's see. What about this here? We do this here? Hey, let's do this. Check this out. I'll be right back.
You know, when you hang out with people with guns that shoot at cops, you're likely to get caught in the crossfire.
New at 11, a Cobb County teacher under fire after those controversial comments on the Breonna Taylor case. She made the remarks during her virtual class at Pebblebrook High School. Tonight, students are demanding action from the district. CBS 46's Sierra Cummings live at Pebblebrook High School. And Sierra, you spoke with the student who posted that video on social media.
Exactly, I did. Pebblebrook High Schoolers wore black today to mark the end of Black History Month, but also because they were anticipating a vote from the Kentucky Senate that would restrict no-knock warrants. It was supposed to be a day about celebrating. Instead, some students say they were incredibly hurt.
What's her name, Breonna something?
Breonna Taylor. Students say they were honoring her during Friday morning announcements. That's when a teacher reacted in their virtual class.
I'm sorry, I really, truly, it's sad that she put herself in that position. But she put herself in that position by hanging out with somebody she shouldn't have been with.
CBS 46 is choosing not to name her because Cobb County School District has not.
You're in a school full of predominantly Black and Hispanic kids, and you decide to say something so insensitive. Why can't you keep your comments to yourself? Nobody needs to know how you feel.
Students like Genesis Crum want the teacher fired. Hundreds of social media comments are demanding the same.
I was very upset and hurt, and I felt like she was oblivious to the situation.
Crum emailed the principal this recording, who replied, "Wow, thanks for sharing this."
Now, when you hang out with people with guns that shoot at cops, you're likely to get caught in the crossfire.
The employee incorrectly identifies Taylor's boyfriend at the time as the suspect. Students inform her that cops were actually looking for her ex. Still, the teacher doubles down.
Yeah, like I said, I'm sorry she's dead, but And they actually have proof that he fired them first.
For high schoolers like Genesis, the comments are just as shocking as they are heartbreaking.
And I just felt like I have to fight for what's right.
Again, students were anticipating the Kentucky Senate to pass a bill that will restrict no-knock warrants. That bill did pass this afternoon. Meanwhile, the school district did give us a statement. We're going to put that on your screen. They said tonight the district is aware of the allegations, is investigating, and will follow any relevant district policy. As a district, we expect every member of our staff to treat each other with respect and understanding. I'm Sierra Cummings.
All right, we are back, right? So, there's a situation that happened a couple days ago. At least it had been reported, maybe about 5 days ago. And again, difference between, teachers, right? It's not racial, right? Black teachers, again, with the standardized testing, they in there because maybe they try to make more money, right? There's some sentence or their job on the line, right? But what happens when you have a teacher that, again, people have power when they're in teachers, right? They have influence, right? It's like the master and the student, right? And so when we're talking about inculcating with your children and having a foundation so that when things are being said, it's not to go in there to challenge, it's to say if something ain't wrong. As we heard in this story, there was children who said, hey, what you saying is not correct. But then there's another side to that for those who heard that and everything that the teacher said is 100 and they take it to heart. And we have to look at that as well, too. So, put that up there for me, sir. Yeah, put that one up there. Yeah, okay. Right? So, Georgia District investigating teacher who said Breonna Taylor deserved to get shot. Let me say that again. Georgia District investigating teacher who said Breonna Taylor deserved to get shot. Now, it was a video, as we just seen, kind of heard the bits and pieces of it. There was a video that was surfaced out there. And you can hear, as you heard her tell the class that Breonna Taylor's death by the police gunfire was her own fault, right? That's one thing to have an opinion about something. But as big as that case was, and especially myself, Black Minds News, I went and did, not in the initial when it happened. Later on, as it went down and stuff started to reveal itself, I went in and got plenty of stuff. We broke down and looked at what the Attorney General said. We got the reports. We got to show the inside. We got all the contradicting things. So I myself am going to be able to speak on this based on not just assumption about all the stuff that had been put out there, right? But let's just go home, right? And so the fact is that this was posted on Instagram. And according was on an online class being taught by a Pebblebrook High School forensic science teacher. Wait a minute, forensic science. Forensic science. Okay. They say the teacher name is Susan McCoy, right? But they wouldn't say nothing in the report about it, but her name's supposed to be Susan McCoy. And according to the say, she was set up by an announcement by the school principal was regarding Miss Taylor. Something about the principal making an announcement. You know how we've been in class, boom, teaching to come on, right? So something about what this principal was saying has triggered her, right? And so she's saying to the class, well, Dr. G is on the announcement regarding reading about, what's her name, right? What's her name? Oh, Breonna something, right? So, again, teachers, again, they say, Mama should be the first teacher, but the way that this country has created, sometimes mama's too inconvenienced to be the first teacher. And if you don't have daddy at home and they both working, then teacher becomes the one that gets to inculcate the foundation in teaching. Now, again, if your teacher is defect, has a defect in them, yeah, they may have the credentials and the diplomas and all that, but that don't, let's say, the psychology of the individual, right? The inner workings of them, who they are when they not at work, can still somehow spill over while they at work. And in this case, this is a platform where you're taking soft clay who you're shaping to mold. And let's say the design, let's say you're in a wood shop or art class, and the instructions that we're here to make, let's say if it's clay, let's say we're here to make some kind of vase. But you decide that you're going to make it, something else. You're going to make a duck or something like that, right? You didn't disregard the instructions and you're going to do it the way you want to do it, right? Because you have the power to do it and no one's there to check your hand. And by the time everything that you done inculcate them will be in life. See, that's why we have to be, again, as black people, we can see why certain other ethnicities of people don't let other people teach their children. Let me say that again. We can see that other people don't allow other people to teach their children is because why? If you have a teacher in there, again, at school, she's Miss McCoy. But when she off school, she on the pole. She doing, all kind of other stuff, right? Got on motherfucking sheet, all kind of stuff, right? So, but they have a certain power that cannot be detected unless the children can detect. Now, this being high school, so we can see why there will be a little banter back and forth, right? So, as you heard, she said, again, she being kind of nonchalant and being very disrespectful. Oh, Breonna something, right? And the one who was killed in the gunfire from the cops, right? Then you hear her say, well, I'm sorry she was killed, right? Are you really sympathetic? Not being sympathetic, right? Then she goes into this, well, as if she know it in her entirety. You can hang out with people with guns who shoot at cops. Is that racial in that? Somehow, just like Asians getting on TV talking about black people attacking them, and now everybody says we just shoot at cops. I mean, crime is in every area. I don't care where the hell you live at. So, I mean, they don't shoot guns in other places, right? But we become the marquee for all the negative shit all the time, right? We always get that negative shit all the time. So you go into this, you hang out with people with guns. Wait a minute, what are some of the people that you're hanging out with? In this case, we can say this for a fact. Did Kenneth Walker have legalization, identification to carry a gun? We can say, yes, he did. So you are implying that her being Breonna Taylor and being black and the people you're running with got guns and they're shooting cops. Is that what really happened? See, you're taking a story and you're scrambling it around to fit this square peg in this round hole to justify your nonsense, right? And said, you really like to get caught. She said, you're likely to get caught in the crossfire. See, you're not even being truthful and honest about it. You're being biased even the way that you're telling the story. Either don't say nothing, or what was the point? What was it that triggered in you? Right? What was that triggered in you, right? Then she goes on, she says, she was hanging out with guys who were wanted on charges. Was she? Because from my recollection and all the stuff that I did as Black Minds News over here, Kenneth had nothing to do with none of that. That's the only person she was with. Now, prior to, they did talk about the one that Glover that they had already arrested way before they even got up to the house. He was already apprehended, right? So if they were going to her house, it was only about her. They knew nothing supposedly about Kenneth. Matter of fact, they had a no knock that they decided they weren't going to do that. We're going to knock now, right? That she was a assault target, right? Wait a minute. I ain't got to do that. You know what I'm saying? This is Black Minds News. I can go back into my archives. For those of you who might be new over here, let me show something. Let's put this to it. I'll check this out. I'll be right back.
CBS News has confirmed that after being shot 5 times, Breonna Taylor was alive but struggling to breathe. In a revised lawsuit filed on behalf of Taylor's family, attorneys allege that Taylor was left to die. They say that she was not killed immediately, that she lived for another 5 to 6 minutes before succumbing to her injuries on the floor of her home.
Turn around, face away!
Cell phone video released last week shows officers moments after the shooting with their guns drawn, arresting Taylor's boyfriend, Kenneth Walker, who later told investigators that he thought the cops were intruders.
The door comes off the hinges, so I just let off one shot. I still can't see who it is or anything.
One of the officers involved, John Mattingly, described how he fired back.
And so I just returned fire. I got 4 rounds off, and it was simultaneous. It's boom, 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 boom.
So in the pre-operational briefing, you guys just considered this location as, and I've heard this a couple times throughout this investigation, as a soft target.
Right.
Based on the information that the lead had concerning the entire investigation.
Correct.
The organization of the, drug trafficking ring. So that's what made that's what kind of made you all come up with the original, hey, we're just going to knock, try to get her to the door, the most passive way to serve the warrant.
Right.
Going back to, you guys, your whole intentions were to have the occupant or occupants come to the door. And you characterized, your all's knocking, announcing. Initially, it's just knocking, trying to get somebody to the door, which kind of, initiates the upstairs resident to come out and make contact with you guys.
Right.
And do you remember kind of what kind of verbal exchange
between the upstairs?
Yes.
I remember when he first popped out, Lieutenant Hoover kind of came to I don't know if it was a low ready or kind of a up, because they didn't know who was approaching them. And I remember Brett extending his gun saying, get back in your apartment, get back in your apartment. Brett was a little bit worked up. And I remember at one point, because they kept exchanging, while we're doing this, I remember looking at Brett saying, Brett, relax. Brett, just relax. Because, while you got to pay attention to him, that's not your focus.
So I'm just start walking backwards, and there's something that was blocking me or whatever. They was telling me to move it out of the way. And the dog is barking, and that's when I got close to the edge, and the dude was like, are you hit with any, did you get hit by any bullets? And I'm like, no. He said, oh, that's unfortunate. And then that's when they had the dog right there. I don't have on any shoes. I clearly have nothing in my hands, anything. I'm walking backwards, and he has this dog right here barking 3 feet behind me, like the dog is going crazy. And he's like, if you don't, if you don't get down or something on your knee, I'm doing everything they're asking me to, slowly and surely, I'm scared to death. And I told him I'm scared, and he was like, if you don't get down on your knees, I'm gonna let the dog go. And I'm just please don't let the dog go. So now I finally get down, and then they come and they put the cuffs on me and stuff, and then they're walking me away. And that was it. That was the end of everything.
The March 13th raid remains under investigation by the FBI and the Kentucky State Attorney General. Police targeted the home erroneously, believing that it was being used by a drug dealer to receive packages. Taylor's death has been a rallying cry for protest across Louisville and the country. Demonstrators have called for criminal charges against the officers involved. Jeff Begay, CBS.
All right, we back, right? So, Now, those were some of the reports that had been out there. Now, if I've seen them, and many of us and others have seen it too, then why would you say the things that you said? She goes on and she said, if you hang out with people who are criminals and they shoot at cops, you're likely to get caught in the crossfire. It doesn't matter what color your skin is. See, it's not about race, but we don't see, at least they don't report. Now, again, it could be happening. I mean, this is a country that has 330 million citizens in there. I guess you could say that. I don't know. I don't think we're really citizens, but you have 330 million people living in this country, and on the daily, we don't see where they're reporting, at least, you know, we seen Anjanette Johnson, Anjanette Johnson, right, when they came in her house while she was butt naked, right? Breonna Taylor's situation, she was supposedly butt naked as well, but, you know, we don't see those stories on the other side. Right? We don't see those stories about other people that this is happening. I'm not saying they don't happen, but they're not, you know, commercialized like that. So for her to say that about skin, again, see, you got to understand that when she's saying these things, certain children that are hearing her will be programmed based on what she's saying. You may change their perception about how they're viewing things because the teacher said it, and teachers is kind of like referees when you're watching sports. They're supposed to be non-biased. Well, see, we're the black and the white. There's a reason for the black and white. I mean, we're neutral. We don't have no, but you know that don't be true. You know, people be sometimes in authority and abuse their power, right? So a teacher's the same way. It's supposed to be neutral. But in this case, right, what she's saying, and she says that she's really, truly sorry and sad that she put herself in that position. Did she really put herself in that position? Now, did she have a boyfriend prior? And maybe some people even say she might even had been dealing with during. But that's neither here nor there. But based on some of the things that had been propagandized, saying that they had packages. There was one package. They went through the whole process, went to the postmaster. The postmaster said there's no suspicious package. All that got thrown away. Nobody wanted to talk about none of that stuff. Then they went to get somebody else. Then there's also talking about rejustification was part of it. There's a whole lot of other things intertwined in there. But certain people will only glean from what they want to try to substantiate, to validate their point. Not in its entirety, right? And so that's what we have here. A person who's in some kind of position of influence dealing with children who can be impressionable and molded by you infusing this in them, right? Can have effects that we as black people and our community and at large, we deal with and don't know that you have stealthily infiltrated into doing what you have done, right? And so what we see that some of the, you heard as in the video, not with the Breonna, but in this classroom, we heard several students push back on her, right? And that pushback is because why? We having conversations, we engaging with our children, grandchildren, so forth, and nephews, and so, and you know, engaging them in certain topics just to give them, you know, testing the temperature to see where they're coming from. That's something we're going to have to do as people to grow, right? To have them more a little bit informed, because we're living, as somebody has said, I've seen talking about, we're living in the jungle with nothing but killers. So you don't want to send them out in the jungle where you know killers are and not trying to tell them, you know when you watch those National Geographic animals, you know, do baby cubs, let's say gazelles and stuff, do they have that pep talk? Hey, you know you're going to get some grass today, but you got to always keep your eyes while you eating. Or because they can't, they have to somewhat kind of protect them. But since we can communicate with one another, that's part of our job, right? And for those who had children in that classroom who did what they did, we commend them, right? Because again, they said that several students had pushed back, and some of them was checking her by saying, well, you know, that was her ex-boyfriend you're talking about. See, they knew the ins and outs of it. That was her ex-boyfriend, not the one, Kenneth Walker. So why you make an assessment about a situation when, if I know as a child, and I'm pretty sure you being who you are, you knew too, but why are you saying these things, right? And then they say, well, they came to the wrong house. Did they come to the wrong house? I don't know if that was that. I can't say that they came to the wrong house, because initially they were somewhere else, and then they broke off, and then they came over there, which the SWAT team didn't even know that they had left until the gunfire, and then they recognized, and then they had to come over there, right? So somebody had something, and some people had said some things that maybe some people was trying to look for money and so on, but you know how that goes. But anyway, so I'm not sure whether that's 100, but then they said the right guy was already in custody earlier that day, right? And so instead of her realizing that, okay, maybe I misspoke, maybe I shouldn't have said this, she said, yeah, okay, like I said, I'm sorry she died. Really? Really? So one of the students said, just change the subject. Let's talk about science, please. Now, let's look at that, right? So, you know, they had to tell you that you're so wrong, but they had to respect you because you're the teacher, that you're wrong. What else could you be wrong about? There's a lot of other things you could be, you know, unbeknownst to the students that you might be, you know, infusing in your curriculum that may not be, you know, beneficial for them. It could be a way to, you know, divert you somehow, right? Again, it's talking about with Kenneth Walker. Again, he had a license to carry a weapon. Remember, he called 911. Remember, he told the 911 he believed it was a home invasion, right? And he opened fire, one shot. He said, well, there was no evidence. Yes, there was. You know what the evidence was? Remember, they didn't charge him for shooting at the cops. They never charged him. Never did charge him. So they would just charge it to the game, huh? Maybe that's what happened. I kind of told y'all, I think I did the last one. The last one I did on that, I gave you my opinion, what I thought, and pretty much that's what it is. Once they took that money, because remember they was making this big thing about you know, this is the biggest settlement in history. You know, that old crump mug, right? And then when it all come to find out, the deal of signing made it so that you could now appeal it, right? You can't now, you know what I'm saying? So it was bad, but you know, that's how they do. You know how they do. So again, they released a letter to the public Pebble Brook families from the school, and they wanted to say that the district was aware of the allegations, is investigating and follow-up of any relevant district policy. Now see, listen to that. Will follow any relevant district policy. So they're going to have to go through the policies and see if she broke anything wrong. Was it just somebody whose opinion that was just off and just shows something to real themselves? Or can somebody, and again, many of us have had teachers in these classrooms. For myself, I'm going to tell you 100. I had some teachers who, if I could see their ass today, you know what I'm saying? Let me tell you something. I seen some teachers I had, there was some straight assholes, right? That's exactly what they was, man. I mean, I could tell you some stories being in class. You would think that, you know, well, Mr. Bloyan, you must have been, no. They seen the potential. You see what I'm saying? Let me tell you something. You can have potential. You know, it's like all of us, sometimes you see some little kid, you see a kid, you know, some little adult or something like that, and you can see the possibilities in them that they don't see in themselves, right? Now, sometimes in some families, some people are jealous that other people have, you know, certain gifts and abilities that other people don't have. Sometimes you got some hate motherfuckers like that amongst you. But it's different in this case, because see, we got to look at it from racial. We, black people, a lot of times, depending whenever you come out of them, myself, I had a lot of white teachers, right? Now that I went to a white school, we had white teachers. And a lot of them were Jewish. And they didn't like our ass, right? And they were saying a lot of crazy shit, right? Doing crazy shit, right? That looking in hindsight, I said it had nothing to do with me just being maybe a young boy. It was the potential that you could see where I was going with this. Because you would say things, as they saying here, I would challenge you. Not because, taking away from your authority, but you saying something that ain't right. Just like these children here said, right? But we're going back some a little bit. When it was still like, I'm not saying it's now not like that now, but I'm just saying, mugs is more, So, yeah, I had some real teachers who were some real assholes, right? And some stories that I tell my family, and I'm not saying that he ain't not no family, but I'm going to tell these at one of these days. I'm going to talk about it. I guess this could be one, but let me give you one. I had so many, right? I had so many. Because, that's how it was. Like, you would think that these school systems, in the way that we looked at what schools and education was about, what I'm trying to show in this show here is these institutions, right? They have another purpose. They're like the checks and balances to see who and what might be and what potential mug got. Remember, they're keeping data the whole time. Shit, you probably go to your school, they got all the stuff you looked when you was a little one, all the way back and stuff you were writing and so forth, right? And then think about how the system will do when you have certain potential. There, the university say, well, come on, we can take your talent and we can develop it, and then, you'll have your allegiance to us because we the ones that are going to, get you there, right? And all that other stuff. But you have, like, this is elementary. And say you're a popular kid, you're a leader of the kids, but then you also show sometimes when the teacher, because you come from maybe a foundation of some kind of teaching, and then they saying things, and then, like, what was that, Boys in the Hood? Remember, what was his name? Was in the classroom, right? What was his name? I know Lawrence Fishburne was the dad, right? Remember, he was a shorty in the classroom, and they're talking about African booty scratching and all that stuff, right? And he went and got to teaching, well, if you shut up a little bit, I tell you, right? We all Africans, right? Remember that? See, a child like that, depending on the teacher, can make that child not want to be a part of school and dwarf his growth. So that's why you think, when I look at it, some people that I know that went to school, they got out of school is because certain teachers were in there as deterrents. They made it harder for them to be in there. So they just got to their mind. They said, well, ain't no need for me coming there because, you're going to do what you're going to do anyway. So being smart about it, say, well, shit, let me go out here and do what I'm doing. But then in the long run, who's being hurt by it, right? And that's what be happening, man. We have to recognize that as black people, why there's the importance of us having, and I don't know how we can ever get the institutions and schools that we kind of need to, really be facilitators and educators of our own. And I think because of what doesn't happen, I think it was a good opportunity now for a lot of people to have sat down and tried to come up with some way to, educate and teach when you got a lot of the tools in our hands now, right? So there's certain things you can teach in a way that the schools are never going to teach because that stuff. Because, we've been going through there for generations. Now, some of us came out of private schools and, preparatory schools and all that other shit, but a lot of us come out of the public school system. We know it was the 19th century with 20th century. We in the 20th century with a 19th century education, some of us, right, at those times. And I'm not saying they're different now. And the way they do it now, they make it with some people, you don't keep refreshing yourself. You can't even help the kids with none of the damn stuff, right? Well, that's anyway. But that's what they're saying here, right? So they're aware of the situation and investigating, right? And then they had the nerve to say this. The video created frustration, sadness, and anger in some of the students, right? And staff and the community. Wait a minute. So now y'all want to blame the video. Oh, the video didn't show that, then this wouldn't be an issue. No, the issue was what was being said, right? Somehow you was not as sympathetic. Somehow what you were saying, It didn't matter. Shouldn't have been in that place, and you shouldn't have been so trying to be steadfast in a position that you were so wrong in. But anyway, they talk about as the leaders of a diverse community. See, they want to use the word diverse, right? Diverse is a good thing, they think, right? Diverse ain't really good. In some things it might be, but not in all things. You know, because you got different people from different backgrounds, from different ideologies and so forth. But see, the thing is, because the system is about getting cut from the cloth of the way I see it, the way we want it done. And if you can't do that, then we got no place for you. So they said, regardless of opinion or emotions, will be weighed against the rules. See, I already tell you they're not going to do nothing. See, regardless of opinions and emotions. Hey, black folks, your emotion, your opinion, right? We can stick to the rules. Well, I'm pretty sure when you, again, just like the standardized test, when you constructed them policies, you had all the break the glass cases of emergency. If we should get in this situation, you should do this. Oh, matter of fact, I got one for you. I remember this. I remember this. Check this out. I'll be right back.
Valley Traditional High School is in the middle of a racial controversy right now. A teacher used the N-word towards a student. The word is only 6 letters long, but the impact is far-reaching. And we do want to warn you that some of the language in this story is strong, and it may offend you, it may offend some other people. But since the story is not just about the N-word, it's also about the teacher's intent and definition of the word, we have decided to leave it in the story for you to decide.
And what did he say specifically to you?
Sit down, nigga.
Keyshawn Chavers is a freshman at Valley High School, a Boy Scout, a football player, a member of the ROTC, an honor roll student. He was hanging around his teacher's classroom door in December. The teacher told him to sit down, and the teacher says that Keyshawn used the N-word first.
And I just kind of was stunned a second. Well, then get away from the door, nigga. And I repeated the same insult because that's sort of what I've been trained to do.
The school district says that is not what they trained English teacher Paul Dawson to do.
He tried to say I said it, and I didn't say it, and no one else in the class knows that I said it because I didn't.
Documents from the school investigation show that several of the students interviewed from Valley did not hear Keyshawn say the N-word first. Dawson says that students use the slang version of the N-word at Valley High School all the time. He says N-I-G-G-E-R is a racial slur, but says that students use N-I-G-G-A as often as they'd say dude or hey man. And Dawson says as much as he does not like the word, he still used the slang version to feel more comfortable with black students.
Why is this word used so frequently? So I just don't understand it, and I'm trying to understand it. I need help. Yes, I use nigga. I've used it. I admit it. I put the H on it to emphasize it's nigga. That, you know, nigga this, nigga please, nigga. Can you lend a nigga a pencil?
What kind of example are you setting for your students if you use a word that you don't want them to use?
Upon reflection, that's not good.
Dawson was suspended for 10 days without pay from January 9th to January 23rd, and he has to go to diversity training. He says that he's learned from this experience and hopes that others think twice before using the N-word.
I will never say any form of nigga. I'm cured of that.
Paul Dawson says that he is sorry for the way things were handled, but Keyshawn says that he is not looking for any apologies.
Apologizing is going to change the fact that it happened and he's not been punished.
And punishment in your mind is?
Not having this job anymore.
Paul Dawson says that he wants there to be a steadfast policy in Jefferson County Public Schools against people using the N-word. Right now, when it is brought up, it's dealt with on a case-by-case basis with the district. And we should mention that Keyshawn is still in Paul Dawson's classroom. Dawson has been with the district for 20 years, and Keyshawn is still in that classroom because Dawson is an honors English teacher. There are very few honors English classes, so he is still with him.
Well, now he was suspended for a while, but is he back teaching?
He is back teaching now, and he still does have his job. But this is not the first time that Paul Dawson has been suspended from Jefferson County Public Schools. Coming up at 5:30, we'll tell you what happened before. We'll tell you about his plan to appeal the suspension and why the district says that he should keep.
All right. Want to deprogram you after that one, nigga. Somebody get a nigga a pencil. But did you hear what they said? You heard them say he still kept his job. There was nothing in the policy. So I just wanted to bring that for those who never had seen that. That was actually a story out here. So, I want to get this programming out here, right? Get that shit up out your damn head, right? I'm going to say, nigga. Somebody give a nigga a pencil? What? That's a teacher, right? Right? This is a damn teacher. Says some shit like that, right? Well, I tell you, boy, huh? There I go, man. Right? See, there's nothing wrong. See, ain't nobody, see, you see how early in the show, when I showed you when the teachers who did that with the standardized test, they put racketeering on them, gave some of them 10 years, jail sentence, 2 years, right? I throw the damn book at you. But they must do all kinds of stuff, and there's some leniency. Well, we got to freeze what's in the policy, right? But the damage is done. We just saying this is a situation that became, let's say, in the eyes of the nation. But what about the stuff that happened on the regular that never get, but again, like I say, the things that will, let's say, be affecting people's lives later. Well, I got another one for you, right? As we get to the end of the show, let me show. There was another one here, right? Yeah, go ahead and show that for her. Right, this that came up, right? Let's see if I see that here, right? So I'm talking about a mock slave auction, racist lessons, how U.S. history class often traumatized, dehumanized black students. Let me say that again. Mock slave auctions, racist lessons, how United States history class often traumatizes, dehumanizes black students, right? Think about that. That's why a lot of black people really don't like history. Because all they know history to be is, we're just slaves. We do nothing to just, and I don't want to feel that way. Well, in this particular article that I had seen here, has some situations here, right, that they were talking about. And, we got to ask ourselves when you see how teachers can be in a position, right, how they can slant events, misrepresent the facts, uses their authorities to manipulate, right? So listen to this here, right? So they're saying on the first day of Black History Month of this year, 2021, there was a group of Wisconsin teachers who gave sixth graders the assignment how they would punish a slave. Let me say that again. This year, right? This month, right? Well, actually last month, because that was Black History Month. A group of Wisconsin teachers, and I wonder who these Wisconsin teachers are, gave a sixth grade students the assignment how they would punish a slave. Really? See? You see how you can use a situation and get their rocks off? And I'm wondering, was this a class of, our children, black children in there? Who are the ones that were in there, right? And what kind of effect would that have if not caught or guarded or, because I'm going to show you something what I mean by that. Then there was another situation in Florida. A high school teacher was suspended with pay, they say, for allegedly telling students slaves were not whipped by white people. And the N-word, a racial slur, just means ignorant. Yeah, a nigga. Somebody get a nigga a pencil. Right? See? In these schools, again, many of us probably got stories that we probably never even thought about. Some of the stuff that some of the teachers we done had. We've seen it there. Right? We've seen a lot of that stuff, right? This other one here, this one is the one I really want to talk about. Now, this one was last year, 2020. It was in Tennessee. Fourth grade teacher had gave the assignment to her fourth graders, let's make a slave. Speech from the 1700s, keeping black slaves under control. Let me say that again. They said a student teacher in Tennessee gave the fourth grade students an assignment called Let's Make a Slave. You know, there's some grown folks who can't deal with that. Maybe some of y'all not familiar with that. So what we gonna do right here on Black Minds News, you know, we is the most hated show in the black corner of the internet, right? So let's see. No. Don't you did the wrong one there, sir. Go to the other one. Yeah, that one. Go there, yeah, that's the one. All right, so, right, ready? Let's go over there and do this, right? Oh, that's the wrong one, sir. You got the wrong one. Yeah, you're showing the wrong one. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, why is it showing that anyway? Oh, okay. Take that down. Okay. There you go. Thank you. Let's make a slave. The original or the origin and development of social being called the Negro. I'm a little hungry. I didn't get to eat before I came home. I'm ready to go eat. But anyway, we're going to get this done. Let's make a slave. The origin and development of social being called the Negro, right? Some of y'all probably got that book, right? It's been around for some time, right? Right? So let's go to that, right? No, go back to that. Okay. So this is what it says. Let us make a slave a slave. Let us make a slave a slave. What do I need? First of all, we need a black nigger man, a pregnant nigger woman, and her baby nigger boy. Second, I will use the same basic principle that we use in the breaking a horse, combined with some more sustaining factors. When we do it with horses, we break them from one form of life to another. That is, we reduce them from their natural state in nature, whereas nature provides them with the natural capacity to take on their needs and the needs of their offsprings. We break the natural strings of independence from them and thereby create a dependency state so that we may be able to give from them useful production from our business and pleasure. Okay? What can you tell? Now, it would be different if it was one of us teaching black children, right? Because we know how this all intricate workings and how this manifests and how we've been dealing with in the obstacles in life. But the person on the other side gonna tell them about this, right? So what you tell them? What do they mean, teacher? By a black nigger man, black nigger baby, huh? So I don't know. Was these who were the participants in this class? Right. Said then they made the comparison about what? The horse. We break the horse, right? And how that process of breaking that horse is the same way we're going to do with this nigga. Now, what kind of assignment is this, right? Like I said, there's grown folks who haven't read this yet or don't even know exist. But you gave this to fourth graders. What is that, about 9 years old? 8, 9 years old? And that's something, huh? But the truth that's inside there too, though, right? Is this stuff that we can see that has been, that we see? Because a lot of people say, well, I'm no victim. I'm no victim. Okay, you don't have to be a victim. That don't mean that this stuff is not real, part of our reality. This is some of the things that we can see that has materialized in the lives of black people, right? Right? So then there's the second part to this was said the cardinal principles for making a Negro. It says, for fear that our future generations may not understand the principles of breaking both horses and man, we lay down the art. For if we are to sustain our basic economy, we must break in the both of the beasts together, the nigger and the horse. We understand that the short-range planning is economic results in periodic economic chaos, so that to avoid turmoil in the economy, it requires us to have breadth and depth in long-range comprehensive planning, articulating both skills and sharp perceptions. Right? Has this been implemented? Was all this stuff here? You know, some people say, oh man, that was just propaganda. They think the CIA did it. They don't know where it really originally came from. They just know that it had been done. Matter of fact, a lot of this is Willie Lynch, right? You know, you ever heard the Willie Lynch speech or the Willie Lynch letter? Quality, this was to an audience on the bank of James River back in Virginia, 1712, right? Regarding the control of slaves within the colony. The letter purported to be a verbatim account of a short speech given by a slave owner in which he tells other slave masters that he has discovered the secret to controlling black slaves by setting them against one another. Okay? Think about that, y'all. There's some kind of spirit we've been fighting all this time, trying not to kill one another, angry with one, hate to one another. Is this propaganda, or was this really implemented? The document has been in print since, they say, the 1970s, but first gained widespread notice in the 1990s when it appeared on the internet. Since then, it has often been promoted as an authentic account of slavery during the 18th century, though it is inaccuracies and anachronisms have led historians to conclude that it's a hoax. We don't believe what no historians say. You can say what you want to say. We can see in the lives of how we had to be enduring and the things that have perpetuated. I don't think we think this is a hoax, right? So they said the reputed author, William Lynch, identified himself as a master of a modest plantation in the British West Indies who has been summoned to the Virginia colony by local slave owners to advise them on problems they have been having in managing their slaves. He briefly notes that their current violent methods of handling unruly slaves, lynching, though the term is not used, is inefficient and counterproductive. Instead, he suggests that they adapt his method, which consists of exploiting differences such as age and skin color in order to pit slaves against each other. This method, he assures his host, will control the slaves for at least 300 years. 1712 plus 300 was 2012, was it not? What was happening here in 2012, y'all? We 2021, and look at what we've been doing. Somebody trying to get our ass back in that damn genie bottle. You think this some bullshit, don't you? But let me go on. Some online versions of the text attach introductions, such as a foreword attributed to Frederick Douglass, or citations falsely given Lynch's name as a source of the word lynching. The text of the speech has been published since the 1970s and often published with the title, The Making of a Slave. It appears on the internet as early as 1993 when reference librarians at the University of Missouri St. Louis posted documents on a library Gopher server. The librarian later revealed that she had obtained the document from a publisher on a local annual business directory, the St. Louis Black Pages, in which the narrative had recently appeared. Though eventually convinced the document was a forgery, everybody want to say that the document. See, everybody want to say something's not true, but we can see the application. We know what we've been fighting. We know what we had to go up against. We know that we can see why the disdain and hate. So somebody wrote something that you say is a forgery, meaning the document is written, but what about what was said? was it implied or implicated into the lives of black people? And then when 1712 plus 300 became 2012, y'all remember they came out with the movie Planet of the Apes. Y'all remember in 2012 they came up with the Planet of the Apes, and on the what was that, the marquee of the poster, he had his hand up with the gun in his hand. Y'all remember that? Somebody was thinking 2012 was the time they was coming out, and ever since from that point forward, and then you start hearing, and then the internet started to get you on fire, and the black corner came about, and reparations and all that. So y'all think that this getting what's that? Take that jab got nothing to do with none of this, huh? Maybe it don't. Maybe it don't. Maybe it's coincidence. Maybe just a coincidence. All right? Now let me show this last part to this. Now remember, this teacher gave a fourth graders this, right? Fourth graders. Hey, take this home. We're going to talk about this, right? Now here's part of the principles they're talking about, right? We lay down the following principles for long-range comprehensive economic planning. This is propaganda. This probably propaganda, right? Okay. Both horse and nigger are no good to the economy in the wild or natural state. Right? Because you got to make money off them. A natural state we can't make money off of. Like the pig, they say we eat everything from the rootin' to the tootin', right? We don't throw nothing away. Just like the nigga, we don't throw nothing away in him. He good live, he good dead. So he good for the economy, but not in his, wild state. Right? Your wild, I guess, also is like your natural too. But the natural state they want you to be in so they can make that money off you, right? So what about the next part there, right? Okay, let's see. Okay, so both must be broken and tied together for orderly production. Must be broken for orderly production. This was just propaganda, or did it have some truth to it? For orderly futures, special and particular attention must be paid to the female and the offsprings. Pretty much now these days, you watch a whole lot of stuff on TV, you rarely see a black American man. Like he don't even exist. And when he do exist, they got him like he's on the, I seen a movie the other day. Brother was in there, the white woman was all tough, kicking everybody's ass, and she had to kick the ass for his ass. He was all like, you know what I'm saying? He was punctified, right? I'm like, what the hell? Right? So this future special particular attention to be paid to the female and the offspring. Now check out what they're saying, right? Check out what they're saying. Is these real? Both must be crossbred to produce a variety and division of labor. Crossbred. Is this what the American experiment is? But then in a sense that nigga, in some sense, he won't crossbreed. He won't crossbreed with his own kind. He won't let us water his ass down. Right? He won't let us water his ass down. He's still trying to stay in the wild. He's still trying to stay in that natural state. He's bucking against the system. Both must be taught to respond to a particular new language. It's all propaganda though, right? Okay. Psychological and physical instructions of the containment must be created for both. Now, you're talking about fourth graders. I would like to have been in the class to see how you was teaching this. Right? Because I'm not doing the video, I'm going to do something. But what was you saying in that classroom? Right? What could you really be saying in that classroom? Right? It's crazy that, somebody talking about doing something, and there's more to that, but I ain't going to go all up into that like that. Right? I can imagine that. I'm talking about fourth graders talking about that, and they're supposed to be doing an assignment with that. To do what? No, because what's going to happen is you're going to have, as it talked about in this article, there was he didn't want to be black anymore, right? Now they were talking about how the only way that unfortunately, slavery is the only way that black people are really introduced into the curriculum of these schools we go into. That's why most black people don't like history. Because the only time they'll school talk, if it's like Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks on the bus, the rest of it is just slavery, if you even got that much. So most people, I don't like history, right? So it make you not like history, right? So, but they said in May 2019, there was a teacher named Patricia Bailey. She made Nicole Day's son and another black student stand in front of their class with other students, bid on them during the social studies lesson in a North Elementary School. She ended up filing a lawsuit, right? So the children were told to refer to the winning students as masters, warned not to try to escape because they would be chased down and violence would be done to them. Now, her son had received counseling after the incident. Profoundly negative effects of all the students present, especially the African-American students. They all had to go to counseling. Because you know what it is. Like I said, many of us, we don't talk about history. And again, remember what in the beginning of the show where there was Booker T. Washington talking about those of us who like to bring, well, matter of fact, shit, we ain't got to do that. We ain't got to paraphrase. Let's just go ahead and just say it like a T.I. is, right? Will you put that back up there for me, sir? I'll put Booker T back up there. Let's go and do it one more again. Right? Booker T say there's a class of colored people who make a business of keeping the troubles, the wrongs, and the hardships of the Negro race before the public. Having learned that they are able to make a living out of their troubles, they have grown into the settled habit of advertising their wrongs partly because they want sympathy and partly because it pays. Some of these people do not want the Negro to lose his grievance because they do not want to lose their jobs. Yeah? So we in the black corner, that's what we do. We doing this because we want sympathy. We trying to make money. Not the fact that shit is just happening. That's what we doing, right? Come on, man. We ain't imaginative of shit. Shit happening. People use what they do to do what they do. We know they do, right? So the little boy had told his mama, he said he didn't want to be black anymore because of the experiment. He didn't want to be black anymore. Is that what didn't happen to a lot of our people? You wonder about that? Some people, is it because they've been traumatized subliminally by somebody and you didn't know and didn't want to find? Oh, sometimes parents be the same way, grandparents be the same way, right? But in this case, after that traumatic situation with him, he was like he didn't want to be black anymore. He didn't want to go to school because he didn't know if he could trust the teachers. Son was 12. He still worries. He worries that he's going to be judged because he's black. Welcome to being black in America. Now, see, the thing is, that's what I'm saying about cocaine to our children when they little. I think somewhere talking about talk when they're up, when you're walking, when you're about, before you go to bed, when they wait. You understand? It's a constant always talk. It's always some reminder. It's always what's going on. Because a lot of people don't have your best interests. Yeah, they smile and show their hands and diversity. But every chance they get, they're going to stab you if you let them, right? So you have to prepare them so that when shit like that happens, when shit like this happens, your kid isn't so traumatized. See, you can only be traumatized because you never heard it. You don't talk about it. We never watch anything. We don't try to tell you anything because some of us been programmed that if you talk about this, somehow you're racist. Everybody doing what they doing, but you're racist. And then they're always trying to find a way to put the shit on you. Like these other people trying to say that we're attacking them. Ain't that something? Who been more attacked than paper can write or pen can write on paper? Who got more, if we had to put it all in paper, who of modernly, because see, we still a continuation, who amongst you that's here with us, whose book would be bigger than ours? I'll wait. So, don't need no more. Ain't no need to beat no more of that. It is what that is, right? So, The thing is, see, that's why we have to get some unification in the sense of institutions or train our own. We have to make that part of our business. If you leave it in the hands of other people, then you're going to get what they want to give you. Yes, we're going to have more people that become teachers. We're going to have places for them to go so they can learn about certain things. And we as collective, we have to become more wanting to be more knowledgeable about us as a people. I think it said in Egypt, it says, know thyself, right? We got to get back to that. Because this is detrimental to us. It's stealthily done. It's done and packaged in such a way that it comes across as, the wolf in sheep clothing with candy in his hand. But unbeknownst to the child, gonna eat your ass. So that's gonna be today's show, y'all. For the little lesson today, for some of the stuff that came in there, I seen in there. So let me see if anybody should be in the house. Let's see if I got a couple people in the house. I got a couple people that was up in here. I got the DJ, what's that, DJ B-Side, 1965. What's good to you? You don't sing the only one up in here. I know it's a Friday night. A lot of people not up in here. That's okay. Appreciate each and every one who did give a like up in here. Somebody took one away. That's all right. You probably got mad because I was talking about something, but it's all right. But they do sometimes. So, again, teaching standardized public schooling. That's what it is. We must understand it, and we must somehow, combat it in the ways, right? Being involved in, us kids and what they bringing home, and let them explain, and we got to get involved. But right now, the way it is right now, ain't nothing to be the same no more, right? So that means it's going to fall in our hands. And the damage, a lot of this shit has already been done. So, and I want to thank each and every one of y'all for coming over here. Let me give you this before we get out of here. One more this. Check this out. All right, this has been another Black Minds News Live report. We're coming back on another one again. So again, for those who want to help subscribe to the other channel, I'm the Most Hated Show. Been in the business going on 9 years, but you couldn't tell. No views. Been suppressed. You could get 300,000, 50,000, 30,000. They said no more, not from this one here. So if you want to do, like and share and all the good stuff, again, to the next show, y'all. To the next show.